Hey everyone, this is Mike and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Sober Living Podcast. If you're new here, I'm glad you found us. And if you've been here before, well, welcome back. Quick disclaimer, I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I don't represent them. The opinions I share are my own. Today's message comes from Daily Reflections for August 11th and is based on page 140 of As Bill Sees It. I've reworded the passage to avoid any copyright issues. Today's message tells us, taking an honest look at my past isn't about beating myself up or reopening old wounds. It's about looking at the things that have happened to me and trying to see them from a more honest perspective. Instead of only looking at how I was hurt or what someone else did wrong, I can step back and try to see the whole picture. What really happened and what was my part? And how have I allowed those experiences to continue to affect me today? Recovery gives me a chance to look at my past with a clearer perspective, to learn from it, and to hopefully stop carrying so much of that weight with me today. The part of today's reading that really stuck with me was the idea of perspective. I've carried around a lot of hurt and resentment from my past. And when I think about some of those experiences, it's really easy for me just to look at them entirely from my own point of view. This person hurt me, that person embarrassed me, and this person, they treated me badly. Maybe all of those things are true. But the older I get, and especially since getting sober, I've started realizing that there's usually a much bigger picture than what I was originally seeing. It's not just me walking through life while everybody else is some other character in my story. They're not a bunch of NPCs in my world. They have lives too. They have childhoods, they have families, they have fears, they have trauma, and they have insecurities. I know they're carrying around their own hurt and resentments, just like I am. And sometimes I know pieces of their stories, and other times I probably don't know the half of it. There's a saying that hurt people, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. Now don't get me wrong, understanding why somebody may have hurt me doesn't suddenly make what they did okay. Some things are just wrong, and some things hurt. And looking at them from a different perspective doesn't mean I have to pretend they never happened. But maybe understanding gives me a different way to carry them. Instead of only asking, why did they do that to me? Maybe I can also ask, what was going on with them? Maybe they were afraid, maybe they were hurting, maybe they felt threatened, or maybe they were responding to something from their own past that I know absolutely nothing about. And then there's the part that's a little harder for me. Maybe sometimes they were responding to me. That's where this inventory stuff starts getting uncomfortable. Because it's pretty easy for me to look back at a relationship and remember everything someone else did wrong. It's a hell of a lot harder to look at the same relationship and ask, what was my part in it? Maybe someone responded defensively because of how I approached them. Maybe they were angry because I'd hurt them before. Maybe I disappointed them. Maybe I'd given them a reason not to trust me. And maybe they were carrying resentment towards me for things I'd done years earlier. I don't always know. And I don't think inventory means I have to invent reasons to blame myself either. It's about trying to see things honestly. That's the part I'm beginning to understand. There are relationships in my life where I've carried resentments for years. And sometimes I still find myself thinking, yeah, but look how they acted. I've even allowed that thinking to keep me from dealing with my own part. But if I'm waiting for someone else to change before I'm willing to look honestly at myself, I'm right back to where I started. I'm looking at everything through my own hurt, and I honestly don't want to live like that anymore. And another thing I've noticed is how quickly I can react when I feel attacked. If someone gets defensive, I get defensive. They raise their voice, I raise mine. If they get angry, I get angry. And now we're both pissed off and nobody accomplished a damn thing. Maybe sometimes I need to stop being so responsive to everything. And maybe I need to pause, take a step back, and ask myself what's actually happening here. What am I feeling? What might they be feeling? And what did I bring to this conversation? What history exists between us that might be affecting what's happening right now? And maybe most importantly, do I really need to react? I think that's where compassion starts coming into this for me. Not just compassion for the other person, but compassion for myself too. We're all walking around carrying things. Some of those things happened yesterday, some happened 20 years ago, and some happened so long ago that we probably don't even realize they're still affecting the way we respond today. I can't know everything another person has been through, but I can try to remember that there's another human being standing on the other side of my resentment. And there's one on this side as well, and that's me. So today, when I find myself getting angry or replaying an old resentment, I'm going to try to take a step back before I react. Instead of immediately asking, what did they do to me? Maybe I can ask a few different questions. What might they be going through? What might I not know about their story? And what was my part? That doesn't mean I'm going to excuse bad behavior. It doesn't mean everything happened to me was somehow my fault. It just means I'm going to try to see the whole picture instead of only the part that hurt me. Because maybe compassion and accountability can exist at the same time. I can recognize that someone hurt me and still try to understand them. And I can recognize that I was hurt while still taking responsibility for the hurt I may have caused. And I think that brings me right back to today's reading. Maybe seeing my past from a true perspective doesn't mean changing the story. The things that happened still happened. The hurt was still real. But maybe recovery gives me the ability to step back and see more of the picture than I could when I was standing right in the middle of it. Maybe removing that ground glass doesn't mean pretending I was never hurt. Maybe it means finally being able to look through some of that pain and see the whole person on the other side. And when I'm willing to do that, maybe I can finally see myself a little more clearly too. So hey, thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next time on the Sober Living Podcast. Until then, stay grateful, stay humble, and keep coming back. Thanks.